Use me, Lord, to declare your words to your people. It's in Jesus' name. Let the church say, praise God. Praise God. Matthew chapter 15, verse number 21 through 28. And I'm going to read from the New American Standard Bible this morning. That's Matthew chapter 15, verses 21 through 28. And it's talking about the Syrophoenician woman. Matthew chapter 15, verse 21 through 28, and it says this. Jesus went away from there and withdrew into the district of Tyre and Sidon. And the Canaanite woman from that region came out and began to cry out, saying, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is cruelly cruelly demon-possessed." But he did not answer her a word, and his disciples came and implored him, saying, "Send her away, because she keeps shouting at us." Verse 24. But he answered and said, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and began to bow down before him, saying, "Lord, help me." And he answered and said, "It is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." But she said, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs feed of the crumbs which fall from their master's table." Then Jesus said to her, "O woman, your faith is great. It shall be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed at once. Praise God. You may be seated. We have to get our thoughts in harmony with what God says we are to become. We have to learn that not everything is what it seems, but it is what we proclaim. We have to be able to isolate the things that bring us trouble and begin to implore the word, the wisdom, the will, the power, the might of God to overcome those things that we struggle with. I want to offer this topic today dealing with some things based on what we're seeing going on right now in the world. With all this Me Too movement and the things that are wrapped around these celebrities that are being that are having accusers coming out, and the things are being brought to fruition, not taking any side, one better than the other, but it's an issue that we faced with a long time. So it's something that we, as not only the body of believers, are struggling with, but people in general. So we have to get in front of it and begin to declare what is it that God needs us to do in order for us to be in harmony with Him, not with the world. The word shame, it's an emotional reflection of oneself when dealing with harmful, unresolved issues. Shame is a tool that the predators use to victimize the victim so that they never reveal who the accuser is. Shame is like an emotional barricade. It keeps the harm from ever trusting other people in certain capacities. Shame is an internal river that constantly flows away from the normal river's function. Shame is guilt. Shame is remorse. Shame is embarrassment. Shame is what keeps the victim from ever being free, because he or she has taken ownership of that which has happened to them. Shame is a thief. It's tied to emotional trauma. If we ever want to be free and live without being held back by shame, you and I have to be on the course in a direction that is charted by dreams, our hopes, and our ambition, on a direction toward God, and that you and I will be free. But in those times, sometimes we hit a brick wall. Sometimes we come up against the things that we're not prepared for. And those walls cause us to stumble, or those pits cause us to fall. But if we only recognize that we have fallen in a pit that's only 2 feet tall, and being that most of us are a lot taller than that, all we have to do is to begin to crawl out and step out and stand up. But because shame, because guilt, because remorse, because embarrassment, because of the reflection, because we've been victimized, we choose to stay in the pit waiting for someone to come lift us up, waiting for someone to throw us a rope. But if we have to get past that today, you have to be able to stand up and move past your shame. The thought for today is, will we, when will we, can we move past our shame? No one is going to come save you unless you begin to stand up and speak out. No one is going to come to your rescue if you haven't recognized that you have been victimized, that you are the victim, and that you are not the victim and the accuser. You have to recognize that you have to get in front of your guilt and declare in your spirit that what I need to do is to move on and get past my shame, get past my guilt, get past my remorse, get past everything that the enemy has done to me that I have taken ownership of. I have to be able to move past my shame. Can you? Will you? When will you move past your shame? In the text, the Syrophoenician woman, Syrophoenician is simply saying this is the region in which the woman lives, in Phoenicia. She's a Canaanite woman living in the Phoenician region, which is when the Romans had control over this particular region. This woman faced some shame herself. Even though it's not talked about in the text, we have to understand the nature or the time in which the text was created. Unlike now, women don't have all the same rights that men do. Even though we live in a constitution type of environment, women still don't have the same rights and privileges that men do. There's still some burden of childlike representation when it comes to the woman. In the text, I want to tell you, and I want you to believe that the women in that time, they were treated worse than children. They had to stay in their place. They couldn't speak out. They couldn't stand up. They had to do what the man told them to do. They couldn't have their own conscious thoughts, and if they did, they were considered to be too outspoken, and there were consequences for that. So the woman's shame in the text began with her being a woman, began with being a Canaanite woman, began to being that she had an issue that she had to deal with her daughter, and that I imagine because of the time that she was married, that her husband wasn't willing to stand up and do anything about her daughter. So here I am. I'm a woman in a time where being a woman isn't the greatest thing to be, because I'm looked at differently. I'm looked at like a child, like I'm beneath everybody, like I don't have my own mind, like I don't have my own hopes, my own dreams, my own desires. But because of my gender, because of my nationality, because of my skin tone, folks deal with me, treat me differently, but I got an issue. I got something that I'm struggling with, that I'm facing against, that I need some help to resolve, and I can't get by with what I have. They're not going to feel sorry for you because you're a woman. They're not going to feel sorry for you because you're a Canaanite woman. They're not going to feel sorry for you because you're married and your daughter's demon-possessed. They're not going to feel sorry for you. So you have to get past the shame of being who you are. We got to be comfortable with being in our own skin. They've commercialized the world. They made it to the point where if you're a certain size, you're not attractive. If your skin tone is a certain color, you're not beautiful. If your hair isn't straight, if it's kinky, if it's isn't curly, there's something wrong with you. So the media itself has portrayed images about who we are that we have to begin to come against. Because I believe that the word says that we've been fearfully and marvelously made. He didn't describe the kinkiness. He didn't describe the physique. He didn't describe the skin tone. He said fearfully and marvelously made, which means that God made you intentionally perfect the way you are. But the world has said, no, if you don't fit this, because the CoverGirl magazine says that you have to be slim, you have to be tall, that your hair has to be straight, that you don't fit the mold. But I believe that we serve a God that says, if I created you, in my creation, you're beautiful. In my creation, you're marvelous. But in the text, you have to understand that because who she was already coming against the natural way that man looked at a woman. So we got to move past our shame. First thing, like I said, she had to deal with some issues. That she was a woman. She was a Canaanite woman. And her daughter was possessed with demons. Verse number 22. And the Canaanite woman from the region came out and began to cry, saying, Lord, have mercy on me, Lord, son of David. My daughter is cruelly demon possessed. This particular woman that the Jews and the Canaanites have had historical issues with. In the Bible, the word says that when Joshua conquered the Canaanites, that they destroyed them and they took over their land. Well, they took over the land that belonged to God, and the Canaanites just began to live there. So God just, in essence, just returned back what he had already had. But the Jews, the Israelites, destroyed the Canaanites. So there has always been an issue with the Canaanites and the Jews. It's like going to a Ku Klux Klan rally, and you need some help in there, and your help is in there. There's always been a struggle with black and white. There's always been a struggle with Canaanites and Israelites or Jews. So she walks into this situation already knowing that they're going to look at her differently because of her nationality. They're going to stare at her strange and wonder in the back of their mind, what is this woman? What is this peasant? What is this foul, despicable, disgracing woman doing, speaking to the Most High, the Son of God? What is she doing? Opening her mouth and having the audacity, the gall to be able to ask Jesus, the Lord and Savior, the Son of God, the Son of David. How does she have this much courage, this boldness to open up her lips and ask him for a favor? Knowing that her people and my people, they don't get along. Knowing that her nationality and my culture, that we don't mix, we don't share sugar together, we don't have conversations, we don't barter and trade, we don't do anything together because of who we are. How does this woman have the courage to get up and began to ask Jesus when he came into the town for a favor? She had this because she had put everything out of her mind. She had set down what she presumed what they could say about her because of who she was. She had put down the fact that she was dealing with an issue that not everybody might be dealing with. So it could have been something that was going on in the house that had caused the possession to occur because the relationship with God wasn't there. Because the daughter was an empty vessel and anything was able to come in. It could have been all those things that she had to put down and set them aside because she needed something to be done. She needed Jesus to have mercy on her. Mercy is when God does something, gives us something beyond what we don't deserve. Mercy is the crime that we committed. God says, instead of giving them this, I'm going to give you that because I am merciful, because I'm a merciful God. So she begins her spiel by saying, have mercy on me. I understand that the Canaanites and the Jews don't agree, but I need you to have mercy on me. I need you not to give me what I deserve, but what my people have earned. And I need you to do something for me that is so special that it's just like you're doing it for your own. I need you to have mercy on me. And she began to tell him what I need. Lord called him by what she perceived he was, which means that she began to humble herself. Son of David, called him by the actual name or the generation that he came out of. My daughter, and here's my problem, is cruelly possessed. She has a spiritual attack that's going on. There's something that is bothering her spirit that is not natural to her. There's something that is going on in her that wasn't born in her. There's a foreign invader that has taken over her, and I need you to release her from this spiritual bondage. What will you do? When will you do? Why will you do? When you be able to ask God to help you, to vindicate you while you're living in shame. We have to be able to learn to move past our shame if we expect to get what God called us to do. The second thing I want to remind you is that there are always going to be people standing in your way. Verse number 23, he says, but he did not answer a word. And his disciples came and implored him, saying, send her away, because she keeps shouting at us. Notice the text. He said, send her away because she keeps shouting at us. But we know in the beginning of the text, she said, Lord. She didn't say y'all. She didn't say, excuse me, fellas, can I have a moment with y'all? She said, Lord. She was very specific on who she was talking to, but they have taken it to their own to say, Lord, send her away because she's bothering us. Whenever you're dealing with something, and I'll use this example. When we were younger, growing up, and we liked females, we always understood that it did benefit us to go talk to them while they were in a group of girls. Because the other girls would either make fun of us, they would either begin to block the conversation or began to try to isolate the one that we had an eye on so that we couldn't get their attention. The same thing is occurring here. Because she hadn't approached them, she was talking to Jesus. And she needed something from Jesus, but the disciples that were still learning who Jesus was, that hadn't been walking with them that long, decided to take it upon themselves, said, wait a minute, tell her, she's getting on our nerves. This is not what we're here for. We've come to do the work that you've come here to do, and we don't know what that is, but because we're following you, we've become your bodyguard. So Lord, please tell her to leave you alone because she's bothering us. Whenever you're trying to move past a point, a breakthrough, there are going to always be people standing in your way. There are always going to be naysayers. There are always going to be folks that are going to try to block the blessing that God says that is yours. There are always going to be people that are going to try to condemn you, that are going to try to talk you out of your blessing. There are always going to be people that are going to tell you that, no, that's too big for you. You can't do it. Try to do it this way. There are always going to be people that will try to minimize what you are requesting or what you are because you are bothering them. But you have to get past your shame. You got to find a way to have your skin so tough that when someone says something that you don't like, it doesn't stop you. It doesn't make you break down. It doesn't cease your forwardness because they have said something that go against what you came there to do. Too often we allow the conversations that people have discourage us from listening to the voice of God. And while we're in the motions of building a kingdom, just like they did when who was that was building the wall? Nehemiah was building the wall. When the king came out, he began to ridicule and judge and cast all kinds of words talking about the workers and how they wouldn't be able to fulfill this. But Nehemiah knew who God was. Nehemiah knew what God had called him to do. Nehemiah didn't allow the outside influences to allow him to put down his hammer. Stop putting down the tools that God gave you when folks say something when you wasn't speaking to them at all. She didn't pay him no attention, even though they were there. She didn't address them. She didn't try to re-clarify her statement. She stood there, wherever she was, in the presence of Jesus, and she allowed whatever they said to fall right off of her. We have to not be sponges at all times. We have to learn that we have to put on our spiritual coat, a garment of praise, that it can block all those things that the enemies will say when we began to get past, move beyond, when we began to walk toward our destiny, when we began to open and declare our mouths, to have this one-on-one conversation with God. When the enemy begins to open his mouth and tell them, you know what, Lord, leave her, send her away, because she's bothering us. Our reply has to be, I'm moving past my shame. I'm moving past my shame. Verse number 24 says this. While in the process of that, he says, but he answered and said, I was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I want you to know that while we're working diligently, trying to make a difference, sometimes we don't receive the expected response. Sometimes when you have done all of your work, when you have dotted all of your I's and you crossed all of your T's, and you've done all of your pros and all of your cons, and you've built a blueprint that works well on paper and it looks really good in reality, sometimes when you've done all of that, you might receive a response that you don't expect. And you have to be okay with that. But you have to be so persistent that even the first no gives you more courage to go, I'm going to keep on going until I get what I want. We went and saw, what was that movie last night? Night School. And at the end of the movie, he didn't pass his test. and he didn't pass his test, but he was very persistent. That he didn't allow him not passing the test the first time to stop him from going back and retaking the test. So he takes it and he takes it and he takes it and he takes it until he passes it. And we have to be that persistent with God. If I don't get the right answer then, I have to be persistent and persistent and persistent and persistent until I get from God what I need. Because I remember the text that said when a woman she came to the king and she was begging for the king to do something for him. That she was so persistent that the king said, she's getting on my nerve. Let me go ahead and do the thing that she's requesting so that she can move on. We have to be so persistent with God that he says they're getting on my nerves. Let me go ahead and do. Let me go ahead and bless them right now. Let me go ahead and open up the door right now. Let me go ahead and just move every stumbling block, every obstacle out of the way right now, because I understand that they're not going to go away until they get what they came here to get. Sometimes you have an unexpected response even when you come to the face of your solution. Don't let that stop you. Don't let that discourage you. Don't let that hinder what you have come for. Don't let that tell yourself maybe this was a bad idea. No, it was the right idea. You just have to wait for the right opportunity in that idea. So we have the Canaanite woman. We have folk in her way. And we have an unexpected response. But then she begins to cry out, because you have to push. I heard this says push, pray until something happens, right? We have to push. We have to begin to declare in our spirit that no matter what it is, I'm going to continue to push forward. I'm going to put my good shoes on and brace myself, and I'm begin to lunge forward. I'm not going to go backwards. I'm going to put everything in a forward motion. She says this in verse number 25. After he says that I've only come from the lost sheep of Israel, means I didn't come for Canaanites. I didn't come from Jezebites. I didn't come from Hezebtites. I only came for the Israelites, for the children of Israel. I'm not going to detour from the job that my father gave me to help you. But she began to push. Verse number 25 says, but she came and began to bow down. In other words, she began to worship. She began to exalt him. She began to praise him. She began to bow down before him, saying, Lord, help me. Help me. Addressing him as Lord again. Lord, help me. Lord, have mercy on me. Lord, give me a bit of relief. Lord, help me with this pain, this anguish. Lord, help me with this discomfort. Lord, help me, my daughter, with this demon possession. Lord, help me. In essence, she's saying, if you can't help me, can't nobody help. If you won't bless me, won't nobody bless me. If you don't extend grace to me, nobody is going to extend grace to me. If you don't offer me mercy, nobody can offer me mercy. If you can't say it, can't nobody do it, Lord. So instead of me going back into the house, telling my daughter, you're just going to have to live with this, I'm going to ask you again, Lord, help me as I worship you, as I sit at your feet, as I beg and as I grovel, as I exalt that you are the Son of God, the bread of life, the lily of the valley, the bread of heaven. As I exalt that in you, I understand, I know that you can help me. Lord, help me. Don't leave me here, because if you leave me here, we're going to die. Don't turn your back on me, because if you turn your back on me, I don't know what I'm going to do. Don't give up on me because of who I was born to. Can I tell you that? You can't help the family that you were born into. You can't help the gender that you were born. You can't help the color of your skin. You can't help the content of the context or the texture of your hair. You can't help that. So God, you have to help me with what you created me to be. I didn't ask for this nationality, God. I didn't ask for this skin tone, God. I didn't ask this. So God, I need you to help me. I need you to have mercy on me, and everything that I'm doing is because I know that you have what I need, because I'm moving past my shame. I'm moving past my regret. I'm moving past my remorse. I'm moving past my embarrassment, because I have to give what you got to help somebody that I love. And Jesus said in verse number 26, and he says this, and it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it out to the dogs. Another unexpected response. Number two, but we have to be okay with that. we have to be okay with that. Because as he responds, we have to learn to engage him in a spiritual way. So that the Lord understands that not only have I studied, but I know who you are. I know that you are the God of Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. I know who you are. I know that it was you that turned water into wine. I know who you are. I know that it was you that made the lame walk, that healed the sick, that raised the dead. I know who you are. So when I hear things that come into my spirit, we can allow it to discourage us if it's not what we want to hear, even if it's the second time. You got to keep on pushing. You got to keep praying until something happens. I've got to push. And here she goes. She gets great with it. She says in verse number 27, she's listening to what he said about the bread and the crumbs and the dogs, because the dog represents how they see the Canaanites, right? So she says, but sir, yes, Lord, but even the dogs feed on the crumbs which fall from their master's table. In other words, she's saying even the dog has the opportunity to eat sometimes. It might not be what was on the table presented as the great sacrifice, but it is what drops off onto the floor. It might not be the whole plate, but it is some of which was on the plate. So even if I'm not able to sit at my own seat and eat with my own fork and have my own plate, I'm still eating what was served to those which you said was worthy to be served. So Father, Master, Lord, Son of David, whatever you desire that I call you, even the dog eats from the crumbs of the Master's table. And notice that she didn't try to defend the statement that Jesus made about calling the Canaanite a dog. She embraced the idea that yes, who I am may not constitute the same value of what you're after. But because I am a part of your animal, I have value. Can I tell you that you might not be the smartest one, but you have value. You might not be the richest one, but you have value. You might not be the fastest one, but you have value. You might not be the youngest one, but you have value. You might not be the prettiest one, but you have value, because even the dog was created by the hand of God. Even the dog. She said, I don't mind being a dog. I'll be a dog today, but the dog got to eat. I don't mind being a peasant, but the peasant needs a master to tend to them. I don't mind being your servant. I don't mind bowing down. I don't mind going through the folks that say, get away from me. I don't mind going through that because I'm here to eat. I got to get away from my shame. I got to break away from my shame. I have to break away from the thing that I have accepted to be my own when I have nothing to do with it. I have to begin to shed those garments so that I can put on praise. I can put on worship. I can put on the glory that God says he can shed on me if I learn that I have to get away from my shame. And here it is. After she pushed, Jesus said, "Oh woman." First time he addressed her as a person. "Oh woman, your faith is great. It shall be done for you as you wished." And her daughter was healed at once. Oh woman, you went from a Canaanite to a woman. Do you know that when Jesus referenced his mother, Jesus said, woman. He didn't call her mama. He called her woman, which was an indication of the respect that he had for his mother. He calls a woman with the indication of the respect that she has for her effort to begin to push. She went through 12 disciples to get to one man. Odds were stacked against her, but she kept on pushing. She went from that unexpected answer, from Jesus, the Lord, the Savior, the Master, the man with all the things in his hand. She went from two unexpected answers, and she still began to push and disengage Jesus to look at her differently. He said, woman, I respect everything that you've said. I appreciate your persistence. I appreciate your tenacity. I appreciate your courage. I appreciate your boldness. I appreciate that you had the audacity to even come into my presence. I appreciate that. So woman, your faith. You believed in me when I'm still trying to teach the disciples to believe in me. Your faith. When you had dealt with this for some time now, and the folks that were in your village could cast her out, it's your faith. When you read or you've heard that I was coming and you didn't know how to get to me, but you believed that if you just walked out that you would see me. Didn't know where I was coming because there were no bulletins that said Jesus is going to walk down Main Street and he's going to turn down left on Dove Street around 220. You let your faith put down everything that you had to do, and I can see you standing, looking in the mirror, waiting. I'm waiting on the dust to come down the street because the dust indicates that there's some marching going on. And when I see the dust coming up, I understand that it's you because no one else comes through this city unless it's soldiers or unless it's the Romans. The only people that come is the tax. And because it's not tax season, I know that when you're coming, the dust is coming with you. I believe that when God comes, the wind comes alongside of him, pushes everything out the way. So I'm going to sit in my window, the Canaanite woman said. I'm going to sit in my doorstep. I'm going to put everything that I have to do. I'm going to stop cleaning the floor. I'm going to stop sewing clothes. I'm going to stop picking the fruit from the trees. I'm going to stop tending to my daughter, and I'm going to wait. Have you ever waited on God? When your schedule says, I don't have time to wait. I need to be doing this now. But when your time says, I don't have time to wait, I need to do this now. Have you ever waited on God? Sometimes getting past your shame means I have to wait on God. I have to wait on the Lord. He says, oh woman, your faith is great. And it shall be done for you as you have wished. Jesus, all he had to do for this woman to get what she sought out to get was him to see how bad she wanted it. The question is, how bad do you want to get past this emotional trauma that has attached itself to you, that is called shame? The very thing that keeps you tied to whatever issue that you faced is called shame. Whatever circumstances that occurred that have you bound, that call itself shame. And the only way you know that it's there is that when you have to come up against it again and you begin to shrivel down and you say, I want to hide myself because I don't want no one to see the guilt that I believe is displayed on my face or in my heart or out of my spirit. And I began to fold back inside. The woman dealt with her shame. She didn't care that she was a Canaanite, didn't care that she was a woman. She didn't care that her husband did not come and approach Jesus as the man of the house. She said, I'm going to put all my shame aside because I need to see the doctor. I need to get to the physician. I need for my daughter, my seed, to be whole. And the only way I can do that is realize that I'm in a 2 feet hole and I'm going to step out of it. What do? When your shame has you so barricaded in that you can't move no further than the problem that occurred last year. What do? You have to begin to expect that when you seek help, they're going to look at you differently because they know who you are. They know what you've been through, but that's okay because I'm not going to let my shame stop me from getting what God says is mine. I'm not going to let your perspective of me stop me from getting what God says is mine. What do when I get to what looks like an opportunity and there are folks that are there that want to stop me from getting the blessing that God, I'm going to keep on going because the one that I'm addressing is the one that I'm seeking the response for. I'm not going to let those that crowd themselves around my blessing stop me from getting directly to my blessing. I'm going to keep on moving. What do when you get to the point where the breakthrough is about to occur and you don't get the response that you expect to receive? I'm going to push. I'm going to keep praying until something happens. I'm going to learn to worship. I'm going to learn to trust God. And I'm going to learn to know that his word that goes forth does not return void. I'm going to push because I believe that what's in me, when I learn that I have to get in front of my guilt, my remorse, my embarrassment, my shame. What's in me is greater than all of that. All those things do is try to mask who I really am. And I am a child of God. I am a son of God. You are a daughter of God. You are a son of God. You are an heir to the throne. And the word says that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Does not mean that it won't be created, but it won't do you any harm. But you have to learn to move past your shame.